So here I am going live now. I'm with my dog Finnegan, the guest of honor. Welcome back to Keep It Dirty. It's a podcast where my guests share really their life living functionally and sustainably and their why behind their experiences navigating through our ever changing environment. So many different changes going on. As a matter of fact, I guess today is all about honoring our mom. Some have passed, like mine 2 years ago, and embracing the time you have with your moms, making great memories, reminiscing about good memories. So I'm going to go down memory lane about my mom. But before I do, I just wanted to show you my partner in crime, Finnegan. Finnegan and I run every day. I feel like he's like my safety net when I'm home alone and nobody's around, or when I'm walking or running through the paths. You know, wherever you are in this world, you think it's safe. You have to just always have eyes behind your head and just be safe when it comes to running and listening to music because you want to hear what's going around you. And also, you want to hear if somebody's approaching you, asking you a question. You never know who's behind you, and just be safe. I guess growing up in New York and walking around the city with my family and my mother who grew up in Flushing, I was always taught just always know who's behind you and just try to stay in safer areas. Wherever you are in this world, there's always stuff going on. So, on a positive note, I hope everybody has a wonderful Mother's Day weekend. It's coming up. And I've been doing these little short stints of just health tips and some of the things that I embraced as a child. So, because it is Mother's Day coming up, I'm just going to reminisce a little bit about how I'm so grateful that my mother instilled in us healthy habits with eating healthy. I think just she was first generation from Italy. So growing up here, we always had fresh fruit on the table. So apples and bananas. So when we would come in from playing outside all day, which years ago, you would just get on your bike. I have great experiences and just great reminiscence of growing up on Long Island. We were like almost walking distance from the beach, and we would just take off on our bikes over the weekends and either be at the beach or be with friends biking around, going to the park. And you didn't always have to have a tracker on, kids. I think it's great for little ones to have that. We didn't grow up with cell phones. That's how long ago it was. But also, you had that sense of freedom. And I don't know, sometimes I feel like cell phones and trackers, it could be a vicious cycle because, especially as you grow and develop and mature, you would hope by the time your kids are teenagers, they would have some sort of sense of respect and also just somewhat having their stuff together when it comes to reaching out to your parents, say if you're going to be late. A lot of times, we would just go to someone's house and give our parents a call, just saying, I'm alive, I'm okay. And it's certainly if kids have cell phones today, you can see where they are. But as they get older, um, don't continue tracking your kids. I think, I don't know, it's like, do you trust them? I mean, once they hit a certain age, they have to have some sort of sense of trust and respect. So lay the groundwork early. That's what I'm basically saying with your kids. So getting back to my question for my viewers and listeners is really, what was it that you remember? What are the monumental memories that you had of your mom that you cherish? And like I said, going back, and especially because this is a health and wellness platform, my mother instilled eating healthy, having fresh fruits on the table with walnuts and um, different types of nuts. And we would just sit there and pick on that. And just going to markets, farmers markets on Long Island, picking up fresh seafood over the weekend, having steamers, and really just living off the land with what was in season. Now, in today's world, you could eat virtually anything. It doesn't have to be in season. But if you can, check out on Google where there are farmers markets in the area. Get to know the people, the vendors, ask them their story. How do they grow their crops? Is anything sprayed? All of these things, because you're putting everything and ingesting the things that you're purchasing to give to your loved ones, your family. So, yeah, for me, it was the traditional values of the Italian culture every Sunday growing up on Long Island. And a lot of our families who emigrated from Italy lived in Brooklyn, and they would drive out to Long Island. And on a Sunday, they'd be with all of us, and we'd make ravioli and pasta, and we would just enjoy quality time together, just sitting around and playing. They'd play Pochino or, card games, and we'd be running around in the backyard. So those are the bittersweet memories of taking advantage of the fact that we all live so close together. Now we're uprooted, we're in Pennsylvania, and we're all over the place globally. And I still have distant relatives and cousins that they took the farmhouse and they gutted it and they made a townhouse where my grandmother grew up in Avellino, a little town called Leone, that in the 80s, when there was a major earthquake, they lost a lot of the birth records. So I'm really into genealogy, and I like to look back and see where everybody was from. So my grandmother's maiden name, there was Recce and Nitoli or Natoli. And Recce is actually like they call in America, they say Reese, Recce. So I'm still doing more investigating and checking out places that I'm from. And my father was born in Poland, in Krakow. So he was 100% Polish. So there was some Polish dishes my mother would make in honor for my dad. He was the youngest of 9 children. So I never met my grandparents. I think his father was like in his late 50s when he was born. And unfortunately, my dad died of a massive heart attack at 63. And at that point, I was in my early 20s. So, that was a while ago. So, yeah, unfortunately, I didn't spend that much quality time as an adult with my dad. And my mother passed away 2 years ago. But going back to health and wellness, just exercising, we were always walking. We had my grandmother who lived in Flushing. She used to take the bus over to Pennsylvania, and she helped create a vegetable garden in our backyard here in Pennsylvania when we uprooted and came here to Pennsylvania with my family. And so I have so many great memories of just eating off the land. And that's what I think instilled the old remedies of, she used to say how she would use witch hazel when you would have a mosquito bite. And then she would tell us stories about how her growing up on a walnut farm not that far from Mount Vesuvius, in the hilly region where she lived. She was bit by a snake, and her uncle just took a pocket knife and sucked out the venom. And then, actually, I know this sounds really gross, but he used urine to disinfect her wound. I mean, this is the stuff that they used to do way back when. They didn't have all of these treatments and things that you could get at CVS, like ointments. So life was different. But my mother instilled in me and my grandmother using herbs and remedies and tinctures. And my grandmother used to, along with my mom, we used to throw all the coffee grinds, eggs, and everything, throw it into the soil where the rose bushes were and in our gardens. And as a little girl, my grandmother used to throw it out of her second floor house into the garden, which it was crazy because I used to think that was the coolest thing. My grandmother's letting me just throw garbage out the window. But it was, she didn't say composting, which is the term that everybody uses now. And also when she emigrated to this country, she took a sprig of a fig plant because they had a lot of fig trees, and she planted it. And then from Brooklyn, when she moved and got married and moved to Flushing, she had a fig tree from Naples, where she was from, in Avellino, a little town called Leone, which I thought was the coolest thing. So to this day, I love, and the end of August, you get these ripe, wonderful figs, so juicy. And it just, isn't it funny? And I'd love to hear from viewers and listeners, as you're listening to this, anything, any smells, any sounds, any tastes, take you back to your grandmother or your mom. Mine was Long Island. My mother used to treat us to having root beer floats. That was a big treat. And we didn't have a lot of sodas in our house, only during birthdays. That was a big treat, having soda. So even though my mother didn't realize it, she really did help us instill really good um, foundation for eating healthy. So thank you, Mom, up there. I know you're looking down at me. And also the love of nature. And you could hear as I turn for the YouTubers, I'm sitting in my patio in the front porch, and I just planted all my potted plants and chilling with Finnegan. So just wishing everybody a wonderful Mother's Day. Have a great, wonderful Mother's Day. And with that, take care and have a great rest of your week. And just remember, try to ground with Mother Earth, get out there, take a walk, stop listening to your cell phone. I love, and now I'm an avid podcaster listener, but turn off your electronic stuff and listen to nature. And also, and when you get an opportunity, if you could rate, review my podcast. This is probably podcast number 98, and I'm 3 years into it, and I'm enjoying the ride, enjoying meeting so many interesting people, having guests on, and it's really an honor for a lot of these businesses now that are reaching out to me, asking me to have guests on my show, because I'm passionate about making small changes in people's lives to eat healthier and, really consider what longevity means in your life. And before I forget, one more note. I was listening to, and I'm trying to think of who it was, Kristen Cavallari, I think her name is. She was on the, what was it? She was on a show years ago, but she's really into eating healthy. And she had somebody on, and they were talking about how years ago, nicotine, people thought it was cool to smoke back in the 50s and 60s. And then that really in the 70s, they realized that it can cause cancer. Well, now they are linking, and this doctor who was an MD and now is doing more functional modalities said that there is a direct correlation and link now that a lot of people are starting to sync the highly processed packaged foods to the addictive behavior that we have because we keep going back to it. It actually does cause us to get hungrier. Just look up ghrelin and leptin. Those are the things that we have in our system. And so it triggers this response in our body to want more of this highly processed junk. But it also, they're saying it's similar to nicotine. It's like smoking packs of cigarettes. They're showing that these highly processed foods that so graciously has been, out there on the shelves, which has been taken off of the European countries' shelves, are still allowed in our country for people to buy. It's literally killing our generation with opening up Pandora's box to autoimmune illness, to cancer. This is long-term studies that are out there. So start doing your research, start really being more aware of what you're putting in your mouth. And also, happy Mother's Day. Take care. Bye.